most companies today, including the federal government, everything is a project. The middle managers are basically managing project managers that do things. So project management is a very large endeavor in most corporations. A project office establishes the standards for the things that project managers need. They establish the tools that are necessary. They establish the procedures and processes that are necessary, training needs, career pathing, mentoring, coaching, counseling. They do mid-project reviews. They especially are concerned about budgets and schedules. And the thing that's usually forgotten in most projects is project closeout. It's very important to finish. And in my world, a definition of a project is something that has a beginning, an end, and a deliverable. And the key word there is end. It has to finish. You don't want to be managing the project that never ends. So whenever you deal with a project, you want to know what constitutes it being over. What is it that I have to do that makes this finished? So, and Project Office is very good at helping with that, because you always have the people who want to add to the project. Scope creep is what it's called. Scope creep is a critical element. One of the things Project Offices help with significantly is keeping projects focused on what they can do, and if the project has to change, seeing to it that the budget and the schedule necessary to go along with it happens. Right. So that's part of establishing the procedures and the controls that are necessary for managing projects. Project managers need to be managed, and Project Office can help them be managed. Project office or a program office basically have the same functions. A program office is dealing with very large projects, and in most cases have multiple project managers on them. If we use the example of a bridge, they'll have somebody that deals with the footings, excuse me, somebody who deals with where all the footings are going to be placed, somebody's dealing with the span, somebody's dealing with the concrete, somebody's dealing with the things that make a bridge go round. So they have multiple. So the program manager will be managing multiple project managers, and those project managers have a very specific focus dealing with getting the overall deliverable completed. In most cases in IST, there are not program managers. Most companies do not have the tolerance to deal with something that's going to take more than a year. Most projects now, 6 months to 9 months is about the longest tolerance that management can have before they see something that produces results. So you're going to see any large project broken down into pieces, and in most cases they'll have a single project manager on it. Well, all project offices, program offices, have oversight responsibility. They will be involved with all the projects. But the project manager or the program manager, the project office, the project manager or the program manager, they're the ones responsible. They have accountability for the deliverable. The project office, program offices are in support of what that is. Now, there always comes the special case of the project that's in trouble, and the project manager won't pay attention to what the project office is wants them to do. So in most cases then the project office has the ear of management, and so they will listen to what it is that the project office is saying. So it's one of the reasons why you want to have recognized, experienced, looked up to project managers in the project office, because in most cases you then don't run into that particular issue. They will listen and do what it is that the project office is saying. But there is no change in responsibility and accountability. The project manager, the program manager are still responsible for delivering that. Project offices do not have responsibility for a specific project. They have oversight responsibility.
Okay.
And there's a difference. The first kind is one that only has influence, meaning they can't say do it this way. They can't say you have to follow this procedure. You have to deal with this kind of status report. All they can do is influence, and based upon their experience and their stature, people either listen or they don't. The second kind of project office is one who has the authority and the responsibility to deal with the procedures, the processes, the tools. In other words, project managers have to use this tool. They have to budget this way. They have to use MS Project this version. They have to follow this procedure for scope management and change. They have to do it. But the project managers do not work for the project office. The third kind is you have all that other stuff with the responsibility, plus the project managers work for the project office. In my mind, that's the best of all worlds, primarily because you then have a way of dealing with training project managers. You have a way of dealing with a career path for project managers. You can establish project manager juniors and project managers seniors, or whatever it is, and you can also have the buddy system where people back each other up. So somebody goes on vacation, somebody is there, and if you have the project managers work for the project office, that all those things can happen. That doesn't always happen in the real world. There's an awful lot of matrix organizations out there where you have to draw upon resources from all over the organization, including a project office, to get the job done. So the second one and third ones are the best. The first one winds up being the weakest because all they can do is influence. But I have seen them, and I have seen them be successful primarily because of the person who is doing the influencing. Right. They're recognized and accepted and a known expert, and so they're listened to. The project office actually started about 15 years ago. You could actually trace back in some ways all the way to World War II when they were doing some of this, but they didn't know they were doing it. Specifically understanding, the government really started dealing with program offices to establish standards, and it wound up being in individual areas where somebody was concerned and then grew across the organization. So there's now an awful lot of them in the governments. They all establish their own standards, though. It's not like the government has one standard across the board, which would be nice, but they don't. Even within the Navy, the human resource area versus the other areas, they don't even have standards consistent that way, or between the Army and the Navy. It doesn't work that, but they all have program offices. It became real serious and very popular in the corporate world about 5-6 years ago. And you mentioned earlier that you're using PMI, the Project Management Institute. If you trace the growth of Project Management Institute, if you went back and looked at how many members they had 6-7 years ago and how many members they have, you would see a significant leap in their graph about how many people have their project management professional certification. You would see a leap even in that. In the last 3 years, the leap, they come close to doubling the number they've had in the last 2-3 years. So it's become very popular, and the reason is that industry had a very clear reputation and history of not producing projects on time or within budget. In most cases, they were significantly over in time, close to twice, and over in budget, close to twice. And so companies got tired of living with that as an experience and put things in place to control it so that they would have a better result from that. So it's become very popular in the last five years or so. Primarily because there's experience out there now that says that things will be done on time and within budget, and that's what companies want. No, a project office is primarily overhead. They're there to be the person with the hammer, do it this way. They're the person with the carrot. You're doing a good job, but focus over here. It looks like you've got trouble brewing in this arena, or you've taken 20% of your testing time away because you're having trouble with your development, and you're probably going to run into trouble there. You need to find a way to, and they may have techniques for them to deal with changing their schedule a bit to bring that 2 weeks back because they have experience in doing those kinds of things. Or they may be able to know of an expert who can come into this area and they can borrow them for 2 weeks and bring the. Those are the kinds of things a project office does. But are they responsible for a project? Usually not. Are they responsible for delivery? No. They're in an oversight role to provide experience, knowledge, and skills to the rest of the organization to bring projects in on time and under budget. That's what their focus is. I have specific experience at Cortec. I ran a project office for 2 years. I never ran one project myself, but the first year that I was there, they basically did 15 projects. It was the year before the project office established. They did 10 of them on time, under budget, and 5 of them not. That's 2/3, 2 out of 3. After the first year of the project office being in place and having some standards and oversight and mentoring and coaching and training, that number went up to 80%, and we doubled the number of projects to 30. So we did 4 out of 5 of them on time and under budget. And again, I didn't do any of them. Yeah. And the last year, the second year final, those numbers were terrific. It was 93.5%, and we did 60 projects. And guess what? When you roll all those numbers out, 55 of them were done on time, under budget, and 5 of them we had trouble with. Well, that's back to doing 15 projects. We had trouble with 5 of them. So you increase the number 4-fold in 2 years, and by having a process in place that people felt comfortable with, a place to go to ask for advice, training that was done, we actually ran once a month at evenings. During their own time, but it was voluntary station. We ran classes and had people actually talk about experience about a particular project and what worked and what didn't work, and allowed them to sit around the table and just discuss. Well, I have this problem. Have you run into this? Yeah, I did that once. This is how I got out of trouble. Or we would all say a prayer for them because there was no way of getting out of trouble. But the more project managers talk with other project managers and gain experience that way and have a place to go to talk when they run into trouble, the better off the organization is.